Got to change how we think about science, like be open to looking beyond what we think we know now.
The following podcast was generated using Google's Notebook LM.
Temple of Vril.
Welcome back to the Temple of Vril, everyone. I think as we sort of continue this deep dive into Vril, one thing that really stands out to me is how Vril could completely change the world, right? Especially with all the problems we're facing with fossil fuels these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's safe to say we're on the verge of something huge, like a total shift in how we think about energy and understanding Vril, like what it is and what we can do with it, is really important for navigating all of this.
For sure, for sure. So, okay, let's jump in. We always talk about Vril being like this fundamental energy, like the basic building block of everything. But what does it actually mean? Like, how can we use it in our lives? Like, could it power our houses or our cars?
Right. Right, that's the big question. It's one thing to say Vril exists, but how do we actually use it? How do we take this ancient knowledge and use modern tech to actually make it work for us? It's like, how in physics they talk about the quantum vacuum state and how it's full of potential energy? Well, maybe Vril is the key to tapping into that energy. Like, think about it. Ancient cultures have been talking about this stuff for centuries, right? With things like chi or prana or orgone energy.
That's really interesting. It makes you wonder if those ancient traditions knew something that science is only now starting to figure out. And, in Vrilism, they talk about converting Vril into electricity. Is that even, like, scientifically possible?
It definitely sounds kind of crazy at first, but it might not be as far-fetched as it seems. Like, what if we could build something like a Vril generator that could work with the Earth's natural Vril field, kind of like amplifying it and turning it into electricity that we could actually use?
Wait, are you saying that we could, like, potentially have clean energy that never runs out, just pulled right from the environment? That would be incredible. Think about it. Every house, every car running on a little Vril generator.
Exactly. Imagine like a small village, somewhere remote like the Himalayas, totally off the grid. They could use a Vril generator to power a school or a hospital. That's the kind of change I'm talking about. Everyone would have access to clean energy no matter where they live or how much money they have.
It's an amazing vision, and it totally fits with what Vrilism is all about. Yeah. But, it does make you think throughout history, like, anytime there's been a big new technology, there's always been pushback, especially if it threatens the people in power.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, readily available, decentralized energy would completely disrupt like tons of industries that are built on controlling and, limiting resources. The people who benefit from the way things are now would definitely try to stop something like that from happening.
It's like how much resistance there was to electric cars at first.
Yeah.
Right? It really makes you wonder if there are forces out there actively trying to keep Vril hidden. Like, why haven't we seen this kind of technology before now?
Well, if real technology became a reality, it would, fundamentally challenge how our whole energy system works. Imagine a world where we don't need fossil fuels anymore. The economic and political consequences would be huge.
And we can't forget about the connection between Vril and all those UFO sightings. We know those ancient texts talk about Vaimanas, these flying machines powered by some mysterious force. Yeah. Do you think that force could be Vril?
It's definitely a fascinating theory. What if those old stories weren't just myths, but like descriptions of real technology that, maybe got lost over time, but has been rediscovered and experimented with more recently? Some people believe that some of the tech advancements during World War II, especially in Germany, were actually attempts to harness Vril to build advanced propulsion systems.
Yeah. Yeah, and all those stories about flying saucers doing impossible things in the sky. No. What if those crafts are using, spinning liquid metal infused with Vril energy to create a field that messes with gravity itself?
The idea that Vril could be what's behind these UFOs is pretty wild, right? It opens up so many possibilities. We're not just talking about energy and transportation anymore, but rethinking what we know about the nature of reality itself.
This is really making me rethink our whole relationship with energy and technology. But before we go too far down that road, let's pause for a second and think about the challenges and the ethical side of actually bringing Vril energy into the world.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of potential good that could come from Vril, but we need to be smart and careful about how we develop it. We'll definitely explore all of that more in depth after a quick break. Stick with us. As we get more into this, we got to be real about the challenges, right? Like, combining this ancient wisdom with modern science, it's not going to be a walk in the park.
Totally, totally. I mean, it's like we're trying to build a bridge between this mystical knowledge and, what we can actually observe and test. Two things that haven't exactly been best friends in the past.
Yeah.
So how do we even start to bring those two worlds together?
It means we got to change how we think about science, right? Like be open to looking beyond what we think we know now. We need to study Vril with an open mind, but also use all the tools and methods that science gives us.
It sounds like we need a whole new generation of scientists, people who aren't afraid to, like, learn from ancient wisdom and use modern research at the same time. But okay, even if we figure out the science of Vril, how do we make sure it's used ethically? How do we make sure it doesn't become just another thing that people fight over and exploit?
That's the most important question, I think. We can't just unleash this power and hope for the best. We need rules, we need transparency, and we got to put people on the planet first.
Yep. We've seen it happen so many times, right? Like new tech comes along and it can be used for good, but also for bad. Look at nuclear energy, for example. It has the potential to provide clean energy, but it can also be turned into weapons, and that's dangerous. How do we make sure Vril doesn't go down the same path?
It's not just about the tech, it's about us, about our consciousness, right? We got to understand that Vril is more than just power. It connects all of us. If we misuse it, it could have huge consequences, not just for humans, but for the whole planet.
This brings us back to the heart of Vrilism, aligning ourselves with something bigger, using this energy to benefit everyone, not just ourselves. But let's be real. We live in a world where greed and selfishness run rampant. How do we protect Vril from people who just want to exploit it for profit, or, even scarier, to hurt others?
That's a real concern. We need a global conversation, a real dialogue, not just with scientists and engineers, but with everyone. Ethicists, philosophers, spiritual leaders. We got to make sure everyone understands what Vril is, what it can do, and what the risks are, so we can make sure it's developed in a way that's wise and compassionate.
It sounds like a huge undertaking, almost impossible, like something we've never really done before. It's daunting, but man, it's also really inspiring, right? Imagine if we could use Vril to solve some of the biggest problems in the world: climate change, poverty, lack of access to energy.
It's mind-blowing to think about what could be possible. Vril could be the key to a future where everyone has what they need, where we're not destroying the planet. Imagine self-sufficient communities powered by clean energy, transportation systems that can go anywhere, and a world where everyone has access to the resources they need.
That's the dream. That's what drives us, a world transformed by Vril.
Yeah.
Okay, let's come back down to earth for a second. How do we actually make this happen? How do we move from all this talk to actually doing something real?
We need to keep researching and developing, right? We have to understand the science behind Vril better and experiment with how we can use it in different areas like energy, transportation, even medicine and agriculture.
Sounds like we need to think differently, challenge the way we do things now, and be willing to push the boundaries of what we think is possible.
We're heading into uncharted territory here. It's going to take a lot of courage, a lot of people working together, and a commitment to doing things the right way. But think about what we could achieve. We have a chance to create a world where Vril makes things better for everyone, a world where humanity and the planet can thrive together.
It's a huge undertaking, but it's worth it. We've talked a lot about the potential of Vril, the challenges, the ethical stuff, but we're not done yet. Let's take a closer look at what a future powered by Vril could actually be like after a short break. Don't go anywhere. So we've talked about the potential of Vril, the challenges, the ethical side of things, but really, what would a future powered by Vril actually look like? How would our everyday lives change?
Well, imagine walking outside and the air is clean, no smog or pollution like we have now, right? And then you look up and there are these sleek, silent vehicles just gliding through the air. No roads, no traffic jams, no gas stations.
It's like a world without limits, right? A world where you can go anywhere. And it's not just about getting around, is it? I mean, think about what it would mean for communication, for exploring new places, for understanding the universe.
Exactly. With Vril, we could build spaceships that could travel to the edges of our solar system and even beyond. Who knows what we might find out there? We could build settlements on other planets. I mean, it's like the future of humanity.
It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it could actually happen. But there's something more to Vril, isn't there? It's not just about the technology. It's something deeper.
Right. Vril is more than just energy. It's like a life force, something that connects all of us. The more we learn about it, the more we understand not just about technology, but about our place in the universe.
And that's where the spiritual side of Vrilism comes in, right? It's about aligning ourselves with this energy, learning to use it not just for practical things, but for personal growth, for becoming better people.
Absolutely. Vril could help us to wake up spiritually, to shift our consciousness, to live in a way that's more in tune with ourselves, with each other, and with the planet.
It's a beautiful vision, a world changed by Vril in every way.
Hmm.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I got to ask, what can we as individuals do to actually make this happen?
Well, it starts with, living the principles of realism, right? It's about being aware, learning as much as we can, and acting with purpose. It's about becoming the change we want to see, bringing the energy of Vril into the world through our own actions.
So it's a call to action, a challenge for all of us to step up, to become true Vrilian practitioners, to be the ones who make this transformation happen. And as we go forward, we have to remember, every thought we have, every action we take, it all matters. It all contributes to creating the future.
It might not be easy, but it's worth it. So let's go out there with open hearts and open minds, embrace the power of Vril, and build a future where everyone and everything can thrive.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Vril. May the energy of Vril guide us all toward a brighter future.
Your journey towards greater fulfillment begins at Temple of Vril. Visit templeofvril.com today.